everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of Late to the Party. I'm your host, Doc from the Cinematic Autopsy. We'll be talking about television shows that are not relatively new, which have come out in the past 10 years, some recent shows, such as the one we'll be discussing today, which is Bosch, which premiered on Amazon Prime, ran for 10 seasons between the series Bosch and Bosch Legacy. This particular show, we'll be talking with other people, hopefully, about different types of other shows, other things that have sort of left the public consciousness that need to be reviewed and talked about. Current shows like Bosch, or maybe even The Lincoln Lawyer, or some other shows like Columbo or The Rockford Files, which are hip with the youth today. So today we're talking about Bosch, and Bosch is a series written by Michael Connolly in a series of books. There's only a couple of books. I think he's written only 24 books, something like that, on the series. So it's a big collection of books, and he's also included The Lincoln Lawyer, a new character named Bollard. We'll talk about later. Um, was that? I think I mispronounced that. Bollard's an object that prevents cars from driving into a store. But if you've got these particular universe that's associated with it, it really deserves a discussion. So I did find somebody that you may know who is a sort of an expert on this. He's read several of the books, and I'm happy to have him on as my first guest on the Late to the Party Cinematic Autopsy show. So please, everybody, welcome the Lord of Toxicity. Consider the source of the sea. Truth or twisting adaptations gain. He holds scales. He holds the light. Lord of Toxicity will rule the night. All right, so let's go ahead and add him in. Let's see, where did he go? As you can tell, I'm new to this, and we'll take.
Hello. Remove
hello,
the video.
hello.
Remove the video so you can get us front and center where we should be.
There
Hello,
it is.
everyone.
Remove. Come on.
Yeah, you got to play around with it. Listen, this isn't a professional setup over here. We're doing great. Oh, you pulled
there
it up
again. Just remove, you stupid thing. Blah. I'll pull up a different image.
You can click on remove from studio.
There we go.
Or do that. So yeah, hey, thank you so much for having me. Michael Connolly books, the TV series, the movies, all of that stuff, all cool stuff. When you first approached me with this, I've not heard really anybody talking about this show or the adjoining books for a while. So, and if anyone's ever seen my series on Consider the Source, I like to compare books with their adapted materials, whether that be video game, comic book, TV, movie, miniseries, whatever, limited series. I like to do that. And this is something that I've not really touched on because I don't really know anyone else who's watched the show and or read the books in our little sphere of people. So I really appreciate you having me on, and hopefully I can add a little bit of value to this and a lot of toxicity to it.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad that you were able to get together and finally talk about this. We've talked about this for about a month, and then we finally got together. I was like, well, I got to get this done. I mean, it's just one of those things where I just got to rip the Band-Aid off. I didn't have a YouTube channel, anything like that. I'm like, well, screw it. Let's just get it online, and then we'll talk about it and discuss the good things about Bosch and any bad things that we might want to talk about Bosch too. Yeah, I watched this. I binge watched this entire series. I think over 2 months time because it took a while. And I just sat there at night. I just watched one episode of Bosch, and it just went through it. That's basically, it was 2 months of procrastination, trying to get away from doing something I should have been doing. Instead, I watched Bosch, and I was actually pretty pleased with watching Bosch. It was a compelling show, and it was one of those things where you watch it, the plot's not really what I was watching the show for, because I was more interested in what was happening with the characters, because the characters in the show are so dynamic.
Agreed. Totally agree. Which is something that carries over from the novel, and it's not always easy to do, which I appreciate. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Titus Welliver is an amazing actor, and I don't think, there's certain people that they pick to do certain roles, and I think this is going to be one. I think this is going to be his role. Some people get a few, some people get like two or three. Obviously Sylvester Stallone got Rambo and Rocky, and now I guess maybe Tulsa King could, throw its hat into the ring, so to speak. But very few people get more than one. Essentially, I would say definitely uh, Titus Welliver's turn as Bosch is a staple that he really imbues and embodies the character from the source material, which I really like. Not so much on the Lincoln Lawyer series, although the Lincoln Lawyer movie, yes, but I guess we'll get to that at some point.
Okay. I didn't remember if he was in the Lincoln Lawyer movie with Matthew McConaughey. I got to.
No,
My wife calls him McConaughey, so I have to be careful not to call him McConaughey when I'm
nah.
talking about him. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
I'll,
See
I'll
how that
call him
goes.
McConaughey. I don't give a shit.
Okay, all right, all right, all right.
All
Um,
right, all right, all right.
yeah. Titus has been acting for ages. He was started acting in film in 1990, um, and let's see. And yeah, in 1990, he was even on. Strangely enough, he was on Matlock, according to the old Wikipedia here. Um, he's been acting for a very long time. The guy's been acting nonstop as a character actor. So many one episode drops in so many different shows. I'm happy that because ultimately I became his fan in Sons of Anarchy when
Yeah,
he was
the Irish,
oh
the Irish bad
the Irish
guy.
gangster, the Irish gangster. He was so good in that, and when I saw that he got his show Bosch, I was like, "Oh, that he deserves that." Then I never watched the damn thing, right? So I
Yeah,
felt kind of bad about him. Titus, if you're listening, I'm sorry, man. Sorry about that, but he's been, and I just you see him everywhere when you go back and you watch old shows. You see him pop up from time to time, and you're like, "Oh, there he is." He's just one of these guys that's been character acting for such a long time. Um, but I actually, since I've got you here and we're talking about the books, I wanted to jump into the novel universe, the Boschiverse
sure, sure, sure.
associated with this. So let me bring this up here because Michael Connolly is a prolific writer. He's like a Stephen King. He writes so many different books and he puts them out there. But these are all constrained to a specific universe that has a lot of tie-in. Yeah, I'll let you take over from here. Talk about how the Bosch
Sure.
universe is set up, and
Yeah.
go from there. How the series kind of play out from associated with all these particular books.
Yeah, so Michael Connolly, former crime reporter from a small town, came out to LA and got into writing. By the way, you might want to pull up the spoiler slide real quick just so we can
Oh, that's
cover
right. We're
ourselves.
definitely going to have a lot of spoilers here.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's a shared universe, but I mean, everything takes place in LA. And one of the main things with you got to pull up your slides again because I can only control mine. Um, he's got two main characters that he writes for. There's a couple side books that he's done. There was a Clint Eastwood movie about a federal officer that has a heart condition and winds up trying to figure out a murder mystery. I forget the name of that. I guess I could look it up, but it doesn't really matter. But that's like a side character that is one of his novels. But his two main characters that he utilizes is the Lincoln Lawyer character and the Bosch character. Mickey Ballard is the
Right.
Lincoln Lawyer character, and they intertwine. And as we already said, spoilers. We find out in later iterations of the book as the series had gotten more popular and enough novels had gone in and they kind of intersected and connected with each other. By the third Lincoln Lawyer book, I believe it's when we find out that Harry Bosch, and Mickey are actually half brothers. So that's pretty interesting. And then they wind up working at cross purposes while Bosch is a LAPD detective. And then later, when Bosch is no longer an LAPD detective and he's doing private detective work for law firms and things like that, he actually goes in to work with Mickey and his team. So it really just kind of depends on your taste. They're very different in both tone and content, the Lincoln Lawyer books and the Bosch books. So, I mean, if you're into wanting to know about police procedurals and things like that, Bosch is with a kind of broken hero. Bosch is your guy. Those are the things you want to do. And if you want to get the inner workings of law, like if you're a big Grisham fan, Michael Connelly does a great job with the Lincoln Lawyer books. I like them both, really. Ironically, I side more a little bit with, even though I have a background in law enforcement, I side more with the Lincoln Lawyer books. I think they're slightly better written. Both books utilize the third person and the first person narrative. Quick briefing on that is just first person narrative is you see everything through the eyes of your protagonist. I walked into the
Right.
room,
Right.
she was the girl was sitting there with nothing on but the radio. And third person narrative is Bosch walked into the room and the girl that he was chasing was sitting there with nothing but the radio, and stuff like that. So I it really just depends. With detective stuff, it kind of lends itself to first person. I recently read or reread Black Echo. That's one of the earlier
Right.
ones. Echo Park is great.
Hmm.
Everything that you see on the screen right here, I have read. So it's pretty interesting. They're worth your time. I had a lot of time to read when I was overseas. I had even more time to read while I was getting my knee reconstructed. So Michael Connelly's definitely on my short list of favorite authors that I will go to. That's like Stephen King, Stephen Hunter, John Sanford, Dennis Lehane, and Michael Connelly. If I see a Michael Connelly book that I've not read, I'll usually pick it up. I've got 3 right next to me, literally right now. Yes. So,
Okay.
which I pulled off the shelf purposely just to, so we could talk more. And I also have kind of an eidetic memory, and I'm a bit of a speed reader, so I
Okay.
can blow through books pretty fast. And I've been pretty happy with the adaptations. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Netflix Lincoln Lawyer show. I think, because Mickey is supposed to be part Hispanic, but they made him all Hispanic. I think that was a mistake to do it like that. And I don't think the actor really embodies what McConaughey was able to do with the film. And then, but I'm polar opposite when it comes to Bosch and the TV series. Like
Okay.
the TV series is exactly what you want the series to be if you like the book, and it's exactly what it needs to be if you don't have the benefit of having read the source material. So it works on both levels. Really well done for an Amazon show. Pretty surprising too, as far as that goes, because Amazon doesn't have the best scorecard as far as adaptations. They've fumbled more than they haven't. I mean, but they've done good ones. The Reacher stuff has been pretty good. But then I think I think I have not read Wheel of Time, but I've heard from fans of Wheel of Time, which there is a lot of, that the Amazon channel really dicked that one up. And I
Right.
think
Right. Well,
uh,
obviously, Rings of Power
Rings
has.
of Power, yeah, they
Yeah.
really and again, I'm not a fan of either one of those, so I can't speak intelligently on it. But I would, my betters in the YouTube verse have all kind of decreed that, and I have no reason to believe that it's not accurate. So, some of the best ones are the crossover stories on the show. But ironically, the crossover stuff doesn't work as well in the books because it's almost like Michael Connelly. Because when you write and you write your protagonist, you're pretty much imbuing them with your essence. And I bet he was getting a little bit of, crisscross applesauce, bipolar fatigue by doing
Hmm.
that. So I'm sure there is a bit of Mickey in him, and I'm sure there's a bit of Bosch in him. And I'd be willing to bet you, if you asked him, like, the crossover books, are they harder to write now? Ironically, the crossover stuff that has worked on the show, that does work pretty good. So, make of that what you will.
Right. I'd have to say that because I've seen Lincoln Lawyer, well, Netflix show, and the Bosch series. Um, Bosch and Mickey the Lincoln Lawyer are distinctly their own characters. They're both
Yes.
very different, um, and you don't get that crisscross associated with it. Um, and I don't get the full Hispanic thing that you get from Mickey. He seems to be very almost Americanized Latino. Um, that's in that show. If it's half, if he's supposed to be mixed race, um, I'm not sure that really comes across either way. It doesn't play too much into the series, but the rest of the series, again, with both of these shows, I think part of the strength that's associated with both of these shows is not just the lead character, because Titus carries it well, and the other guy who plays the Lincoln Lawyer's name I can't remember. He carries it well, but they have a supporting cast of characters that really bring a lot of depth and reality to this series and give it a lot of humanity. Because if it was just Bosch, the guy is like so traumatized. You know, you watch a series of just him, you'd be like, oh my god, what's happening in my life? I think I have to go take a bath for a week or something like that because all the bad things that happen to the guy. But at the same time, there's a lot of different characters that are around that are experiencing things, and you start seeing the shared, you know, almost tragedy that you end up working with in a homicide department. That's something you don't get a lot of other procedural shows. You don't see the sort of the human carnage that's brought out in these police procedurals that you end up seeing in the Bosch. It's like if you look at NCIS, it's like, oh, we found another body. Would you like to go get some coffee? Oh yes, let's have a nice coffee. You know, but
Yeah,
at
I
this
don't
one,
dig
yeah,
I don't dig those kind of shows as far as that goes.
yeah. So it's, I guess, gritty is a good word to describe, you know, the background. And you said that comes across in the books.
Yeah, it does. You know, you get a lot of Bosch's inner monologue. You know, you get a lot of how he thinks and what he does, and I think it comes across pretty good in the show. But I mean, sometimes there's going to be stuff that a book can get that the TV show can't. I am definitely not one of those book nerd purists that's like the book is always better, because I don't believe that to be true. And if anybody would watch my show, they're going to see, like, more often than not, I side with adaptations that I believe are improvements upon the source material. Because I mean, anybody can do, like, there's another show called Why the Book Wins, where she just goes on and on about how the books are always better.
Yeah.
And I don't cotton to that. I think that there's lots of stuff that doesn't translate well. Just, side note, right now, uh, I'm currently streaming with Horror with Nadia, and we are reviewing the Institute TV series based on the Stephen King novel of the same name. And one of its biggest problem, besides bad acting and low budget, is the fact that it's not a really great adaptable source. So, in that instance, the book actually is better, but only slightly so, and only because, some things don't adapt. Words, lines in a book may not always come across. So another one that sticks in my mind is like the TV show Justified, and you had
Yeah.
like 6 seasons of this show based off upon 3 novels
Right.
with Raylan Givens. So they managed to, kind of work some magic with that. The showrunners and the screenwriters managed to take that and not just stretch it out, but also make it so that this character comes across the same way, this laconic, very capable gunman type character with a strict moral code, much in the same way that Bosch is. Bosch is very much, he's an ex-soldier, ex-special forces, he's killed. He's got lots of vices. He's got lots of things that are wrong. He was a foster kid, and he carries that stuff around with him. And it's very well described, and it weighs heavily on the source material. And then in contrast, or at least maybe not contrast, but to kind of carry it over into the show, Titus Welliver is able to play that very haggard, seen it all, done it all kind of guy, late middle-aged, that's, is kind of wearing all of the stuff on him. He has a very strict honor code. I think one of his famous quotes is either everybody matters or nobody matters.
Right. Yeah.
So, and he really believes that. That's not just something he says as a cool catchphrase.
Right.
He
Right.
believes it 100% down to his bones. He is very loyal to the people who are loyal to him. But he also has a very strong insubordinate streak for people who he doesn't deem to be worthy of wearing the badge. He sees the badge as a kind of mystical. He sees himself as a knight, an errant knight in in a modern world, and he sees the people that wear the badge to be like that. And when someone disrespects it, he takes it personally. He's had many dust-ups with superior officers and things like that. Someone in a 30-year plus career easily could make chief of detectives and or chief of police, things like that.
Right. Right.
At a minimum, captain or a lieutenant, but he never achieves that because he gets himself into dust ups that he ought not to do. He's definitely not a career climber like that. He just wants to do the job. That is his main focus. In contrast to that, Lincoln Lawyer Mickey wants to make as much money as humanly possible. He will bend the rules, maybe even break the rules in order to get that done. He has a moral code as well, but it's very flexible.
Right.
And I love the contrast between the two characters. I love the skill set that shows up between the two characters. And again, I've not watched the show. I did watch the movie. I've read all the books. So make of that. I tried to watch the show like once or twice, and I mean, he's just, the Hispanic thing, like it's written like it's a surprise. Like Mickey will speak some Spanish, and
Right.
he's
Right.
supposed to be dark complected, but most people think he's basically looks like Matthew McConaughey, basically.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so they even have a cool little in joke in the book where the movie exists in the book. In the world of the books, the movie exists. And Mickey finds that to be hilarious that they picked Matthew McConaughey to be him and
Oh,
things like
interesting. That's funny. So that brings up another character. Let me see if I can call up her image here. Mimi Rogers plays Money Chandler in the show, and she is that a character that's actually from the Bosch series, or is that a stand-in for like the Mickey the Lincoln Lawyer or something like that?
No, no, no. She's pretty much a stand-in mostly for. I think she was written into the books after the show had gained popularity. In fact, I'm almost positive that's true. But yeah, no, like she starts off in episode 1, season 1 of the show,
Right.
but she's not. That's not how it originally was with that. Maybe in some ways, I mean, you got to remember that she's a climber,
Right.
as far as attorneys go, and she's a good foil for Bosch. Essentially, who all the characters are in the pilot episode of the show. So
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of a surprise. I mean, when you have a source material that's a book, I mean, one thing that's a sort of a blessing for actors. I have a little bit of acting background. Is when you have a book series that's established, you can go back and you can read that, and you can get a lot of information about what's motivating each character. And I think Welliver got a sort of a really nice meal handed to him with that with the books. And when you have that specific depth of a character in the things that he knows about the character, what the background is with his mother, why he's named Hieronymus Bosch, all these different little um, tidbits that are there, it allows him to build a depth of character that he was able to really transmit to the screen. So that's why a lot of people say the book is better. If you have a good actor, the good actor will be able to take that book and translate it very well to the screen. But people also have imaginations, and then whenever they read a book, they're going to place their imagination on whatever's on the screen. And if it doesn't match their imagination, they're going to go, it wasn't as good as the book. Um, so I really think that the Mimi Rogers character, I could tell right away that it didn't match what was in the books right away, but in the later seasons when she came back, there was a lot more depth to the writing that was associated with her. I mean, you had Madison Lynch's character Maddie working as an intern for her, and you get to see a little bit of insight into her world as a lawyer. And you can start to see that, okay, because Michael Connelly did do some writing for the series, he was trying to bring that character in. I think that's why the character started showing up in the books. He's like, yeah, this is a character that really kind of makes sense in the Bosch universe. It sort of brought her in.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, so she's a civil rights attorney in the books, and she doesn't appear until the Concrete Blonde. Which number of the series of books that is exactly, I'm not 100% sure. And then she evolves from there. But like I said, if you watch the show, she's front and center in the show on like episode 1.
Right.
So,
But
and,
then
and
but then after, a couple of episodes later, she's gone, and she doesn't really appear later until like season 4 or 5, where Maddie
well,
starts
yeah,
interning with her.
well, he winds up working for her.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's in the Legacy show.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but so the legacy, the Bosch legacy, that seems to come from books too, right? Is
Oh
he
yeah,
actually
yeah,
still
yeah, yeah, yeah.
a
So the
police
last,
detective there, or
yeah, he goes into private detective work. So the last book that is him as a like an official cop is called The Drop. It's told in the third person narrative, and it basically follows Bosch. The drop is a acronym in LAPD, vernacular, which means DROP, Deferred Retirement Option Plan, which is just basically like, listen, we're going to, in the Army, they call it drumming you out. It's not like they're kicking you out, but they're just not willing to renew your contract any further. So pretty similar to what I did in the military, actually, which is basically like, listen, we're not going to boot you because you've been in too long, but we're not going to renew your contract either. So find another job. We're not going to do it. And they have the same thing in law enforcement. I assume they probably have something similar in the fire department, any kind of state or federal type jobs like that, prison guard, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, Bosch is not, he's made lots of enemies, and they basically give him one last case to kind of keep him busy until his drop goes through. And then after that, you get what, you see on the Bosch legacy, which is the subsequent novels where he's working for Mimi Rogers' character, where he's working for, in the books, Mickey Haller. And he's basically just he's the same mission. He has some trouble adapting to it without a badge. But he gets there and, kind of finds his way. I also do private detective work. So, it becomes difficult because you have to really get people to talk to you without the enforcement arm of whatever, police force you were working with before. Right. So it becomes more and more difficult. So you have to rely more on your wits. You have to be really flexible in the way that you do things. You can't just flash a badge and be like, hey, I'm going to bring you downtown and you're going to talk to me. So, but yeah, no. And those are interesting, as far as they go. If you put a gun to my head, I'd probably say I really enjoy the early works more than anything else. I enjoy all of the Lincoln Lawyer novels, but if you were like, hey, Toxic, where do you stand on the Bosch books? I'd probably go, his early stuff is good. And you've got a few of them up here, like the Black Echo and
yeah. And I just took it away just as you were talking about.
Well, that's okay. I know most of the names of them anyway. So, but yeah, the drop is a good one. It's a good closer and then transitions. The Narrows is a good one. Echo Park is an early one where he's still having to see a psychologist for a dust up that he has with a commander, which I have a clip of, which they did incorporate into the show. If you want to play that, it's only a 47-second clip, so you'd probably get away with playing it if you want to with the full volume and stuff.
Okay, that's when we're. Yeah, I know that from the show.
Yeah, you can if you want to hit add to stage, it'll pop up there for you.
Okay. Situation worse. Here's a clip.
What, are you gonna drive your boyfriend home, Bosch?
Please step aside, Captain.
Don't embarrass yourself. He beat you twice. I'm gonna put a revolving door in the squad room thanks to you.
Get out of my way.
Just one fuck up after another with you, isn't it? Regular catch and release program.
I'm tired of your bullshit, Pounce. You're in my grid square. Now get out of my face.
Why don't you do something about it? What, suddenly need to call for backup? That's a fucking first. Don't walk away.
Jesus Christ, Harry!
You're mine now, Bosch. You hear that? Your ass is mine. I got witnesses. You're done. Oh.
The old turn in the badge and gun.
Turn it in. It wouldn't be a cop show unless you had something like that going on.
Hey, I had to turn mine in at one point. For a very, very similar reason. So yeah, no, it happened. This is Bosch. He's a throwback, and he's referred to as such through a lot, which I'm so glad they didn't. They could have easily, credit to Amazon and credit to the showrunners, they could have easily done. What if we do, because we want this show to go on for a while. What if we get a young guy to play the young Harry Bosch, and then he kind of turns it because he's never really been young in the stories. He's younger. He's definitely past his prime. He's a Detective 3, passed over for promotion, multiple reprimands, things like that, living in a dilapidated stilt house, that's been basically condemned, drinking too much, smoking too much, sleeping around too much, like that. So that's how the show starts, and that's how the books start. And I'm glad they did that. I'm glad they did it with a midlife crisis type guy, and they do a really, really good job. I would be hard if you were to have me make a top 5 best TV adaptations of a source material, Bosch would be squarely in that list, and with no wiggle room. It wouldn't be at the top of the list. I think I'd probably go for like Justified, but it'd be up there. It'd definitely be up there, and probably for sure in the top 5, maybe even in the top 3.
All right. I don't know if you ever watched The Expanse. The Expanse actually does a pretty good job adapting. It kind of starts to drift around seasons 4, but since I haven't read the Bosch series, so, yeah, I'll take your word on the quality and how well they follow the characters in the book scripts. And yeah, that's one thing I wanted to talk about was that the way it looks like they take different threads from different books because, well, according to what I was reading on the internet, vaccines cause autism, that type of thing. But at the same time, um, season 1 is based on book 3, The Concrete Blonde, City of Bones, book 8, and Echo Park, book 12. Each of them takes an element from those books and sort of weaves them together into the season. Were you able to pick that out when you were watching the show?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, Echo Park kicks off with Harry, going to a court mandated shrink
Right.
to talk about like what happened, and then we get a flashback of the incident which we just witnessed. So
Okay.
they do it differently, but yeah, no, all of that stuff it's all of those elements are there. Now with the Bosch, it's easier to spot. And you have other stuff like for instance, the Lee Child books for Jack Reacher. What they've
Okay.
done with those, and I've gone into some discussions about that, they have just adapted an entire season for a book. Whereas, as you pointed out with the Bosch stuff, they, kind of cherry pick
Right.
and take different elements and weave them into a coherent story. So you'd have, things from, like you said, the 3 main books that they utilize for season 1, and they put it in there, as does like Justified. Like Justified only has 3 Raylan books. So they have very limited source material to play with, and they managed to spin that into something different. And sometimes it's like that. And most times if it's done right, which I think in all those instances I just named, I think it'd be very good. You could, if you have a big enough book series, you could have the adaptation be the entire series. Or like Gillian Flynn, who another Kansas City writer from near my way, she did, all 3 of her books have been adapted. One of them was adapted into a limited series on HBO called Sharp Objects. And they managed to stretch that into 8 episodes, even though it's just the one book. And they managed to do it, like I said, in a very coherent way. So that it's loyal to the source material, but at the same time, because really you don't want to see a page to screen adaptation, because then that would be dumb because you've already read
Yeah.
it.
Right.
I don't want to see that. I have seen stuff like that before. Like I think Interview with the Vampire is a pretty loyal, but it's basically just the movie is just basically the book put to film. There's a couple little differences and stuff, but for the most part, now again, I'm not a big fan of that genre, so I might be kind of being a jerk about it. But I've seen, Stephen King stuff that is adapted, and it's adapted in such a way that it makes more sense. But I've also seen the opposite. I've seen some of the worst Stephen King movies or miniseries adapted, and they just totally
Oh.
cock it up. You know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, how many times
So
have they done The Stand? You know,
right, The
right, and
Stand
you
is
just can't get it right.
Well, The Stand is pretty much, it's so expansive that it's really unfilmable.
Right.
It's his most popular book, or at least I bet it's probably not his most popular book anymore now that we went through a pandemic. But in the past, it's been that because everyone wanted to kind of fantasize about a world where all the toys, everything is still, resources are still here, and you're one of the survivors. I think everybody kind of like that, and it is a very excellent novel. The
Sure.
expanded version of it is even better, I might add. That's the one I read first, thank God. Because if I had read the short version, I never would have went for the longer version, which
Sure.
is like
Yeah.
an extra 600 pages or some crazy shit. But yeah, I mean, like I said on Nadia's stream the other night, talking about the Institute, there's like lines of dialogue I'll know, that come from Stephen King. They look good on paper. They don't come across on screen. That's true for Michael Connelly with the Bosch stuff as well. and to a lesser degree, the Lincoln Lawyer. It doesn't. Some of the stuff that's written, a lesser actor would have not nailed it, because Bosch has a lot. Like I sent you that clip of all of the best, Bosch one-liners and things like that. Some of that stuff doesn't translate well unless you have a top tier character actor like Titus Welliver.
Right. Right. So let's talk about what we liked about the series. Like, what things stand out to you about Bosch? We've talked about the character work and the plots. Um, like this, like let's talk about the setting of the series um, that really stood out to us. I mean, I haven't seen LA represented like it is in the Bosch series, like in any other show that you watch. You always watch LA, and they're always walking down the Hollywood hills, or they've got that Mulholland Drive look where you look over LA, and that's all you see. But with Bosch, the city itself is a character on its own,
Agreed.
and the way that it's brought out, especially when they bring it to what is it, the one with the cable car, Angel Heights?
Okay.
Yeah, where they have that particular scene where it's the later season, where he's dealing with the robbery homicide division, where he's back and forth at that scene, and you begin to understand and see what he's going through, especially when they're trying to investigate. They're having difficulties trying to find it. One of the other detectives finds a clue that he wouldn't have been able to, but he had sort of a Einstein moment where he was able to follow the bullet and he found it. It was just sort of a miracle that nobody had disturbed it where he had found it. The city itself, when you're walking around, and yes, like one of the later series that they had, the surgeon was walking down. He was helping out the homeless people, and he ends up getting stabbed out. Spoilers, but that runs a season. That sort of just shows you the underbelly that's associated with it. And with the J. Edgar's arc that was in the later series, he's actually talking about or brings in sort of what's going on with the Haitians, and his Haitian background and the criminal organizations that are associated with that, which is nice to see that it's just not Bosch focused, but Connolly and the writers of the series take a lot of time to bring in J. Edgar's character. Is also one of my favorite characters that's in the show as well.
Agreed.
Let's see. Do I have a picture? I just loaded it and then disappeared. I don't know. Maybe I have a picture. Maybe I don't.
Fun fact: J. Edgar, played by Jamie Hector, was also on Justified in a couple episodes.
Oh, really? What? I'm trying to remember. Where was he in Justified?
I'd want to say season 5.
Okay, later season. Okay. I've seen all of that. I haven't watched that in a while. I have to go back and check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah. They're also. I mean, I go back and I say the setting of the series. One thing I have to mention that I haven't mentioned before, but the opening song for Bosch by Caught a Ghost.
Yeah.
Got a feeling. It's one of the few opening songs that I just don't skip through, because I think that's like the fact that they incorporate jazz into this show was sort of unique, because I'm not a jazz guy. I'm like, freeform jazz. Somebody gets up, plays an instrument, don't really care.
Oh, don't tell Bosch that. He'll never invite you over for a drink.
I don't think he invites anybody over for drinks, actually.
He invites young hot patrol women over for drinks. I know he does that.
Okay. Yeah, or a judge or a district attorney, as the case may be.
Sure. Yeah.
That's okay. If that's the case, maybe I don't want to go to this place for drinks,
Yeah, I hear you.
But at the same time, yeah, the opening song really sets the tone. I think it's one of the top 5 opening music of all television, I would say. Because it was just one of those things where I was just like, I love listening to that, and I knew I was watching Bosch when I heard that song came on, and that worked for the first 7 seasons for Bosch Legacy. I don't even know what that song was. It was kind of a throwaway. It wasn't nearly as good.
Yeah, one of the things it just really depends on the TV series itself. I'll let it run. doing my rewatch for Nadia's channel of Stranger Things, I always let that run. Yellow Jackets, I love to do the Yellow Jackets. Game of Thrones. Bosch is pretty good. I mean, it's not something I'll like quickly skip, unless I got a time frame to work with. I might skip it. It's not horrible. I can tell you, like, one of my favorite shows, like Justified, I never ever watched the opening. I don't know why they chose that weird hillbilly rap shit that was popular in 2009 2010 to do as their main credit. I hate it so much. They'd have done much better using the song that's basically written for the show and Harlan County, you'll never get out of Harlan alive. They should have had that as the freaking intro. But if it's good to have something that you like with that. By the way, to circle back really quick, not only does Bosch and Lincoln Lawyer exist in the same universe of the movie I mentioned with Clint Eastwood, it's called Blood Work, both the book and the film, but it's a standalone book. So if you're expecting Harry Bosch, you're going to be
that movie, that was a Connolly.
Yep. Yes, it was.
I had no idea.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Most of what I watch, I get to watch with the wife, but she doesn't like things that are too bloody or science fiction or anything like that. So I try to catch what I can on the side. This is just why I was surprised I was able to watch all of Bosch with getting through all that. And what about the season plot? So as far as season executions go, as far as the show goes, I mean, we've got 7 or 10 seasons, depending upon how you want to go with this. But the seasons, they were always, because of the way, and I think that the books really helped it in the way they intertwined it. The adaptation was so well done that I don't think I was ever really bored with the show. The only disappointment I really had was season 3 of Bosch Legacy, and that's just because they were ending the series. And I think they got a late notice that they were ending the series and kind of had to rush everything right there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, it can't compete with police procedurals like The Rookie, which is probably going to go on for 20 seasons, and he hasn't been a rookie in like 5 seasons.
Right.
Which, just an aside, I do actually like The Rookie, but it's one of those things where it's like a guilty pleasure type thing. It doesn't have anywhere near the quality. It's like that polished version of LA, and it's cop porn where they always shoot the guy in the leg and then handcuff him and things like that. And I mean, there's some good stuff in it, but I mean, it's basically candy episode bullshit that you can just put anyone on. With Bosch, you really got to kind of get in, you can't go wander into the kitchen and make mac and cheese for the kiddos and then wander back into Bosch and still be okay with the plot. Like you're gonna have to have had to pause it with that.
I get what you're saying about The Rookie. My wife and I were watching it. We always laugh whenever the show ends up in a hospital. Some of the crazy shit happens in the hospital.
Yeah,
and it just doesn't make any sense. And we always just start laughing about how crazy it is.
I mean, it's definitely
it's
a guilty pleasure for sure.
It's guilty pleasure. Yeah. Good way of putting it that way. And as far as the subplots go of the series, I guess I got to bring Maddie up. So come on up, Maddie. This is Maddie Lintz. She plays Madison. Is her last name Bosch in the series? She is Bosch in the series. Because she has to put that on her police application. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wanting to say yes, it is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And so let's talk about, because we've talked about all the cops are in the show, so we want to talk about the relationship that he has with his daughter. Is this something that's also touched on the books as well?
Big time. Yeah, big time. Yeah, it's definitely. And then they have a crossover cute thing where Mickey's kid is hanging out with her and stuff like that, and they do that when they have the crossover stuff. So yeah, no, she's a big character in the books as well. And it basically follows the same path. She joins the police force as a rookie and has to kind of the fear of living in dad's shadow, and then later when he's a PI and he's just expecting to get those kind of PI favors that you get from your cop friends or cop family, you know, and she's just like, no, I don't want to do that, and blah 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 blah, and all of that stuff. So but yeah, no, it's good. And I love all the casting. I love all the casting. I don't like all the characters, but I do like all the casting. I think all the casting is very well on point for everybody that they utilize on the show. I could not have picked better. I'm more of a I don't really care for Crate and Barrel as characters. I get it that they kind of had to have these mooks that were, you know, not quite as intense as Harry. You know, it'd be a weird, if everybody was as intense as Harry, then it would be the Shield, you know, which I don't know if you're familiar with that TV show. Yeah. So if it was that, you know, I think that the people that they put on the show are great foils, but J. Edgar's a great foil for him because he's this well-dressed younger guy that does things slightly differently, but he usually defers to Harry's ability level, his LT, Grace, she's great. Kind of lets him slide on a bunch of shit, and even the thing with Irving by the late great Lance Reddick, even that is a situation where, you know, although it's adversarial, they have a mutual respect for each other, and Irving understands that, you know, Bosch is the kind of guy that, you know, you put in as a pitch hitter and he's going to get it done. But the Crate and Barrel stuff, I think they go a little too camp on the show. I was going to wait till you asked me if there was any complaints to that, but since we're running low on time, I figured I would just tell you now, like Crate and Barrel, I'm not a big fan of. I'm not a big fan of them in the book, but they're much smaller utilized in the book, or in the book series rather. And there's a lot of focus on them in the show, especially in the early seasons, which I get it. They were trying to kind of juxtapose, you know, this really, you know, dark main character and have a little bit of comic relief in there. And probably the showrunners thought the same thing as what I just said as an offhand. They probably was like, listen, we can't turn this into the Shield. So, let's bring in Roger Podacter from, Pet Detective and pop him in there with this other guy, and they can do Crate and Barrel. And I get it, and I'm not mad at it. It doesn't ruin the show by any stretch of the imagination, but it's definitely one of those things where I don't, I'm my thumb is hovering over the fast forward stuff when they show up on the screen.
They were much more pivotal. I mean, for season one of them gets shot. I can't remember which one. And that was, that's an important kind of screw up because of what was done by the DA at that point. Ends up getting one cop shot. Actually, I think another one somebody from the DA's office gets shot and killed.
Yeah, because they were trying to get evidence, and they brought an inmate out.
Right.
And Bosch was dead set against it because bad tradecraft.
Right.
Which I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, and they're just doing what the ambitious DA wants to do in order to further his career, and ends up screwing the pooch pretty badly on that one. But again, the foil for that episode, what's his name? The actor who played the serial killer. That was good. There was a couple of little conveniences.
No, he was great.
No,
he was great. He was, I believe he was Superman, wasn't he? Or no, he was no. I always get him confused. He was the actor. He was in X-Files.
Right. I'm looking it up right now. It was Jason Gedrick. And let's see. Of course, he was an Iron Eagle. How could I have missed that? Yeah, it is Bad Boys and Risky Business. Man, he's been around. He looks great. That's how old. He looked like he was in his 30s when he was the serial killer. I didn't realize.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's annoying.
I know all these people. The fountain of youth is out there in Hollywood somewhere.
The older I get, the more I start to look like Michael Connelly, which pisses me off.
Yeah, I get how that goes. But yeah, I mean the casting for the show was really kind of spot on. I kind of get what you say about using Crate and Barrel as kind of the foil on it, and you can't talk about the cast of the show without talking about Commissioner Irvin Irving.
Yeah.
Here played by Lance Reddick.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Pour
Fucking
one out for
legend.
Lance Reddick. I mean, the guy is. I mean, again, similar to Titus Welliver in his just how much work the guy had put in Hollywood over time to be such a well-respected actor. He showed up in other shows, so many different shows. Even that horrible, what was it? The
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. That's it. Even that terrible show, he was still, somebody that they're able to actually go out and find. Everybody was like, "Why is Lance Reddick in this?" At the same time,
Well, I
but
mean, I imagine they paid him. Probably.
that was probably a big factor. He was just like, "I'm not doing that," and they're like, "What if we got another zero?" He's just like, "Maybe I'll show up for a couple of days, see how it
Yeah.
goes." Yeah, but Lance Reddick is great, and he's got the classic line. And I wish I could get this before he died. You put it on my answering machine and just say, "Fucking Bosch," I
Yeah.
just whenever he said that, you just because they have from the show that they have a history, Bosch and Irving, um, and it's they hate each other, but they respect each other too much to really let it be more than a simmering dispute between the two, and the way the two actors play off of each other, um, even when they're not even in the same room, they sort of really get under each other's skin and give you can see when they're in the room, they're just like, do I have to be around this person type of thing? Because he knows Irving's done some things and Bosch wouldn't have done those particular things in order to catch the bad guy. And, it always is something that's kind of in there, even though Bosch kind of does something similar in season two. Oh, and that brings up my favorite character actor that was on the show was Jimmy Robertson.
Hmm.
So is Jimmy in the books?
Is Jimmy his name or is that the actor's name?
That's the detective Jimmy Robertson.
I'm
Let me
wanting
see.
to
I've
say
got his picture here in a second.
if he's who I think he is.
It's going to be terrible. It's one of my bad slides. I apologize to everybody in the audience
Okay.
for showing this, but there it is.
Yes. Paul Calderon.
Paul
And
Calderon. Yes.
yes. He also shows up in the very unfortunate Justified reboot / sequel.
The Naked City, or was it Naked Jungle?
Primeval. City
City
Primeval.
Primeval. That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His character in that, it was supposed to be the main character, and they shoehorned Raylan into it and then made him a side character, which was just dumb.
Oh,
Dumb.
yeah.
As you know, or maybe you don't. The Raylan Justified TV shows in the same universes like Get Shorty, the J Lo and freaking George Clooney movie. Sorry, it's been a long day.
No, that's okay.
Where she's a U.S. Mark Karen Cisco. And they actually managed to make a Karen Cisco show, and the chick that played Karen Cisco actually made a cameo in one of the episodes, season 5 of Justified, which I thought was pretty cool.
All right.
But they had lost the rights to the Karen Cisco stuff some kind of way, so they had to just call her Karen. But it was the same actress playing the same basic role. But yeah, no, he's in that as well. When she goes to Detroit, Karen Cisco goes to Detroit to follow a lead. He's there as the detective. But yeah, no, he's great in this as well. I like how it's, we don't know if he's the bad guy or if he's a good guy or if he's, and how that's going to intersect with, the things that are going on with Bosch and, Paul Calderon's he's a great character actor. I've been watching him since I think the first thing I saw him in was the Christopher Walken gangster movie, King of New York from like 1988.
Oh, King of New York. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And it's Out of Sight is the movie you're thinking of. Out of Sight.
Out of Sight, yes.
Yeah.
It's weird because I should know this because I've read all of Elmore Leonard's novels and seen all the adaptations. So I should have had that. Northern English Bastard, the other YouTuber that I do stuff with, would be yelling at me right now because he's a huge Elmore Leonard fan. He's been wanting to get me on one of these to talk about Get Shorty, but I actually I like the movie and I don't like the book, which is, and he's the opposite, which is weird. I'm usually
Interesting.
the book guy. I don't really care for the book. I think the adaptation is far, far superior.
You're talking about was that Sylvester Stallone and that Get Shorty?
Oh, that was no. You're mixing him up
Oh,
with
John Travolta.
John Travolta. Yeah.
John Travolta. Yeah. Right. All right. So we're running towards the end of our time here. So let's give our final thoughts on Bosch Legacy. Let me put it this way. Would you recommend somebody spend 2 months of their time um, streaming the Bosch series, which is on Amazon Prime, and Bosch Legacy, which is also on Amazon Prime? And I do want to plug, they have a new series in the Bosch universe, Ballard, which is released July 9th. Have you seen any of that?
I've seen some of Bosch Legacy. I've seen all of the original Bosch show, and I've seen none of Ballard. So
Okay.
make of that what you will. But as to your question, would I recommend Bosch? Absolutely, I would.
Absolutely.
And then, I mean, listen, it is what it is. Shows get canceled for bad and good reasons. So, I mean, pop on Bosch Legacy if you haven't fallen in love with the characters from the Bosch universe by the end of season 1 or 2 of Bosch, then you're definitely don't bother with these other 2 shows.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, I would definitely recommend for the stuff that people are streaming nowadays. Keep in mind, we during the time when this came out, we were living in a golden age of TV. We had Breaking Bad, we had Boardwalk Empire, we had The Americans, we had The Shield was still had just completed in the 2009 or 10 area. So we had True Detective had come out in 2013-14.
We had The Big Bang Theory. I'm kidding.
That was 2007, but I mean, I'm a fan of Big Bang Theory, but I mean, as far as like intense, drama series, of course, then The Walking Dead was still doing pretty well. I think they were in season 3 or 4 around 2014. So, I mean, we were really spoiled and living in this great age of television, Chuck, that was going on right around that time. I would highly recommend. There's a YouTuber named Slipmaker that does these retrospectives very similar to what you're trying to accomplish here. And he does that with TV series that have been completed. So, whether they be short ones like, for instance, 1 season stuff like Firefly or the private detective drama Terriers from
Terriers. It's such a good show.
Yeah, he does stuff like that, but he's also talked about long running series like Game of Thrones or The Americans and things like that. Boardwalk Empire. I believe he's done one on not only Breaking Bad, but its follow up, Better Call Saul. So yeah, he's definitely somebody. I'll send you the link in our private chat to take a look at him and maybe give you a little bit better. But I'd definitely be willing to come back and talk about Bosch Legacy more in depth when I finish it, and then tell you which books are specifically attached to it. And if it's available on my Plex Pass, I will take a look at Ballard and see if it's maybe we can do like a one-off talking about that. If you are so inclined.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk more about books and shows that we have both enjoyed. I've seen a lot of shows. I haven't been reading as many books as I have in the past. I mean, I've read a lot of things like Tom Clancy and other types of thrillers, political type thrillers, and not so many detective novels. Or I've read a couple of Brad Thor books and other things like that. Just stuff I picked up at the library from time to time. But like yourself, you are a published author now. I'm also working on a book. And what's the name of your book? You can go ahead and plug that for the 5 people who watch this live stream.
Well, we're not live. It's going to be
that's right. The not live stream.
The not live stream.
The dead stream.
Yeah, it's called Slapdash, and it is on Amazon. It's self-published currently. I'm working on the sequel to it and another book at the same time, which is probably not the best way to do it, but it tells of James McCulley, and he is a former soldier turned security consultant who has run afoul of the Kansas City mob and the Dirty White Boys, the biker gang that's at war with the Kansas City mob. And on top of that, he's on federal probation for some mistakes that he made after he got out of the military. And the feds want him to work for him to take both the mob and the biker gang down. And he's got to figure out a way out of that. So set primarily in Kansas City, but also diverges into Lawrence and Leavenworth, Kansas, both places that I have lived and worked in the last several years. So
right from what you know, that's the best medicine.
Right from what you
aspiring
know.
author.
Yeah.
Well, once again, thank you, Lord Toxic, for joining us for this live stream. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk about Bosch with you, and I look forward to talking with you in the future about a variety of different topics.